Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming. Today we're talking about Monster Hunter Outlanders, the now properly revealed Monster Hunter mobile game developed by Capcom and Timi Studio Group. But instead of a separate game with a Monster Hunter skin, this does appear to be a more classic Monster Hunter game, but as a mobile game. Does this have the potential to be big, or is it simply another mobile game with classic predatory monetization? No matter how you feel about it, mobile gaming is massive, especially in the East to my understanding. What interest is there then in Outlanders? Well, if you look at their announcement trailer from 2 days back, you'll see over 1 million views that quickly. So there's interest and it's hard to deny, but is that excitement or is it something else? I want to give you my perspective before we get into that. Rage Gaming is a 3-person channel. You've got Josh, Cotton and myself. I'm Hollow, or Aaron if you want to call me that. But basically we create videos on games we're passionate about and we work together to cover them. The only reason I mention that is to separate myself from Josh and Cotton when I say that me, Aaron, Hollow specifically, I'm not into mobile games. I actively don't really like how they play, and I should specifically say I really dislike mobile gaming monetization, especially. I find mobile games, even the good ones, they often force walls between the players and the game to encourage you to pay to overcome the classic predatory design. Things like exhaustion mechanics, daily rewards that make the game even function if you play free to play, blatantly stronger stuff that you get if you do pay. So I'm not saying either Josh or Cotton are into these things either, but I say that to reference the fact that they're both more open to mobile games a lot more than I am. So looking at it from my perspective, you're going to see that I'm very skeptical. Let's talk about Outlanders monetization then. They know it's a big topic and a loud topic of concern for our Western audience. But I've seen time and time again, it doesn't seem to matter, not really. Let's say you really dislike mobile monetization and mobile gaming. That doesn't change the fact that there are insane methods of monetization that are very successful on that platform of gaming. So whether you like it or like me, you don't, it's successful and a lot of people play them. However, on the other hand, there's still IPs, artists and passionate people who like to create things that are fun and satisfying that also want to be successful. So maybe Outlanders is more like that. We don't know. So what do we know? Outlanders is a free-to-play mobile game, again developed by Timi Studio Group and Capcom. They said and that they must have worked with them is the suggestion, rather than just giving them access to the IP. So if they claim they developed it together, how far does that really go? It seems to tell me that Capcom took this more seriously than some companies do when just, sending their IP out to be developed for a mobile game. I think that's because they value Monster Hunter and that brand a lot. So there's a bit of hope, basically. What do we know about the game beyond that? Well, we have this brief information from the team itself, the trailer and gameplay clips, a 6-minute video they posted, and on top of that, there was people who played some kind of limited test and talked about that experience. Now, from those sources, I will try to reference when I'm saying anything from that, so when I do say that, please take those parts with a heavy grain of salt, because often people just make stuff up. Now, what do we know about this for sure? It's an open world survival game. Like I said, the team released this 6-minute video. It's an interview with different representatives from both Timi and Capcom. In the trailer though, we see 3 main regions that we're going to explore: a dry desert, a lush forest that also seem to feature a swamp, and this rocky volcanic region too. The monsters are all pretty familiar, a bit too familiar maybe, because they're mostly just Monster Hunter World monsters. Though one monster, this Rathian, was very different with its unique variant design. We have now heard that this is a Rathian that has mutated due to environment conditions, maybe those crystals. And we also saw the outline of a monster in the clouds, which seems original too, possibly the dragon we're going to reference shortly. To me, alongside the other world monsters now revealed, this suggests that they're more using assets from a Monster Hunter game that's well known and popular, the world lineup, and while there's a good chance we'll see variants of those original monsters, I'm not expecting a long list of new monsters in this game. They did say that beyond mutated and enraged monsters, there will be new kinds of large monsters in the game though, so there's going to be some. What seems very different compared to that though, is most everything else. The world, the gameplay, the characters, the visuals, and that. To get around this big world, we've seen different instances of movement, like a glider and catapults to launch yourself, swimming, sliding, climbing, and swinging. So with the map being very big and there being a lot of verticality that we're apparently surviving in, movement seems pretty important. For the weapons, we've had 5 revealed: longsword, dual blades, the lance, the bow, and the light bow gun. But what really stands out here for me that's more unique is character design, and I do think they look cool. The Palico is going to be back after all, but there's going to be new companions called buddies we're going to talk about. But that's the trailer information. The interviews provided with a lot more information alongside the apparent early testers. Let's start with the big one: performance. Hilariously, after the PC Wild's performance concerns, people had a lot of comments on the trailer for Outlanders talking about how they're going to need an insane phone to run this. Now, from a Reddit post claiming to have played during those private tests, they said that the performance will be comparable to World, with an iPhone 13 achieving high quality in 30 FPS. I could believe that. In terms of story, they say that we're some kind of traveler who studies monsters, and in some kind of dream we encountered a mysterious dragon that burned down our hometown, and so we're chasing that dragon and became a hunter. That sounds fair enough, and if that monster in the cloud is the dragon, that would line up. Either way, we've got a huge map and world to explore filled with monsters. It was said that the monsters respawn at various times and have their own habitats, so I imagine you wouldn't find a swamp monster in the desert, which makes sense. They referred to the monster nest though more like a unique layer system. Those layers are comparable to the size of the arena we fought in back in World. I could also believe that when they talk about another mechanic. Apparently there's also a main city as a functional hub, which seems fair enough too. Now in the producer interview with more concrete information, it said that we'll choose between a roster of pre-designed characters before a hunt. The designs for these I think are a big topic, and I think they're going to do well here. Take a look at the Dual Blades user. That is indeed the Kula set, and importantly, the Dual Blade weapons. It is very different, and it simply doesn't look like that from the original World version. The terrible World weapon designs have been referenced to death in the history of the series, and it seems they've learned their lesson that they can't do that again. What's cool though is the artists that are working on this game have taken the original non-design from World and turned it into something interesting and unique, fitting the monster well. So we can actually expect impressive equipment redesign based on the World monsters and their gear. That's an exciting concept just to see. But yeah, the character designs are more tied to the characters, which seem to come from their own origins. They have their own personalities and their own skills. And that's where the potential of a gacha system is now referenced. We know there's going to be in-app purchasing, but what is that exactly? It could suggest that if there was a gacha here, it would be centered around your allies you work with rather than you and your character. And after the images we got for these 3 other allies that we work with, it does look like a gacha style splash card to me. But again, a lot of speculation there, logical speculation, but we need more information. As stated in the interview video though, there will be a story we follow and progress, and through that we'll encounter new monsters. So probably progress a story through classic hunting quests. Now while it's been said that there's no time limit to hunt, meaning you can explore the map how you want, there's been talks about some kind of exhaustion system. At least again, according to those who did some sort of playtest. They say that you won't fail a hunt if that happens to you, but when exhausted, you get sent to a nearby camp, allowing you to regather supplies and such. It seems this exhaustion system is tied most to monster nests though. Like I said, you enter a special location for a monster layer. Entering them will consume some of that strength system, the exhaustion system, which gradually recovers over time. If you enter a nest without any strength, you won't get rewards after beating it. So while there's no limit on the open world, it seems just for the nests. For me, any stamina system immediately sours me. Their entire purpose is to force you to come back every day, building a habit of playing the game. And just like the potential gacha system, they may have turned it into a much less invasive version on paper. So let's say there is a gacha system and it's tied to your allies, then it's not for you, it's your NPCs you work with. Let's say the stamina system, if that's real. That wouldn't hold you back from playing at any point, but it does prevent you from getting rewards specifically from the nests, and maybe only the nests. If those two things are true, big if, is that the influence of Capcom on the project? How they've limited the classic mobile monetization methods? And if it is true, will it be enough? So yeah, that information comes from sources that I definitely don't fully blindly believe, but since I've seen a lot of people talk about it, I wanted to highlight it and reference it, but please again, don't take it too seriously, not until we hear official information. Anyway, materials you collect in the world will be used to build more camps, which seem to have different stages to them. I read that allies can be recruited and set up in those stations, which will go collect and hunt within a set distance. So the kind of concept of building bases around the map and have them passively collect them for you. If you want a comparison, I read from people that claim to have played that they felt it was similar to Pal World and those bases. But what we do see in reality is gathering as a topic. As this is a survival game, we actually saw gameplay of a hunter chopping down a tree for supplies and then using it later to craft up and build up a base. So at very least there is confirmed base building and some kind of management, and active creation for exploration and combat is also shown in use. So for tools, we have the paragliders, grappling ropes and traps. In that interview, we saw them set up different kinds of catapults. This one actually sent out a long rope that they ziplined up to a higher location instead of just launching yourself. We also saw them create this on-the-spot wind device to launch up high using the glider. Further, we saw the buddy system being introduced. So alongside the palico, there's new buddies, this little monkey guy, and also a type of bird. And there's little clips of their insane power, like the palico using a move that takes down this Anjanath, creating cannons mid-combat, some sort of harmony song from the bird, maybe a heal or a buff. But for the actual combat for the hunter, we still know very little, even though we've seen more gameplay clips here. I read that there's energy slots that build up in combat and are spent on different special attacks. But watching the gameplay, I'm still not certain how this will actually function. Will it be like turn-based but live speed? You make decisions in a moment from a small list of options? I could also believe that. But let's bring this towards the end here with one big topic in my eyes, the potential of a PC version, let alone a console version. If this is to be compared to a game like Genshin Impact, that's a mobile game that functions on PC and console very well. So with Outlanders, if they were to limit their audience to one platform, just mobile, that would be a mistake in my eyes. Unfortunately, all we really know is that it's a mobile game developed for mobile use, but that doesn't mean it won't just also come to PC as well. We've seen some surveys on this topic and it should be possible. I would say that this means there's not going to be a console release, at least for now, but I do think it will be very wise of them to release it on PC, such as via the Google Play Store on Windows. We actually ran a poll to see how you guys felt about this and the game. And to answer, assuming that the monetization turns out to be as fair as possible. As you can see, we had over 5,000 votes. 22% said they'd be interested if it was just mobile, but 44% would be interested if there was also a PC version. That's a pretty big chunk. 66% of the vote said they'd be interested, while 34% said they're just not interested, full stop. That is pretty positive. And that's reflected in the top comment by Wiggler here. Say it with me now, we should all be cautiously optimistic. Green Hydra said that I don't really care for mobile games. They're largely based around short-term bursts of interaction, and I prefer games that actually keep my attention. And I have to find myself agreeing with that. The third highest comment said that if the mobile version is optimized and smooth with mid graphics, then maybe. So that brings me to the end of this talk and overview. I hope you learned something new and this helped you gauge the game a bit better. Obviously, there's still a lot we don't know, and I think a decent amount of suspicion, yet optimism around the game. Considering it's a mobile game, I think that's a very healthy outlook to approach the game with. It's landed well enough with the audience to have that at least initial interest. Clearly, it's possible for this game to turn out well and for it to be even worth trying if you're into Monster Hunter in general. I think that's a pretty successful start for them. How much of that information from the closed testers was real? Hard to say, so we're just waiting for more information. As we learn more, we plan to cover that, so expect that here on the channel. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.